All right, we are live. It is July 9th, 7 o'clock. July 9th, 2024. 7 o'clock. Welcome. My name is Joey Ragona. I'm just a little freaked out here because you get that little warning sign when something doesn't work right. The streaming doesn't happen. And you get the error message, and it kind of throws me off. My ADD kicks like right in. I don't know about you, Eddie, but does that happen like when you go live? Like it totally freaks you out? Yeah?
Oh yeah, I start sweating, dude.
Oh my gosh. So we're broken on two channels, but you know what? We're still the show must go on, right? So that's just the way
That's
it
right.
goes. Does not matter because you're here, I'm here, and you are here as well out there watching us. Let us know by a hashtag live or hashtag replay for watching the replay. Eddie, my man, I saw you earlier on
What's
today
up?
inside the academy. What's up, man? What's
Yes.
up? Is I'm super hyped as you can tell. Um,
What the heck have you had? What are
yeah,
you
dude.
eating, man?
Yeah, so like I just had my sandwich with my hot Italian. I love like hot
Oh
serious peppers. Are you a pepper dude?
no, you're one of those guys. Listen,
Oh,
I can handle it a little bit, but no, I'm not one
dude,
of
like
those.
I don't
I'm not.
know.
I'm not like you.
I have an intolerance for peppers. I don't know what it is. I always said to my wife, I need to go in a contest because you can't put me down. Like it's serious. So
Mm-mm,
so that's I think what hypes me
mm-mm.
up as well. I get those things happening. So that's one reason. But the other reason, most importantly, is because I had my buddy Joshua B. Lee, who is
Yeah.
like the LinkedIn guy, and he's like massively super successful in so many areas, but really focuses a lot of his attention on LinkedIn today, inside the academy
Hmm.
with us. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. What do you think? What did you think about it?
It's again, man. It's you attract our community. It's all about heart center individuals, servant leadership, and we really care about people. We care about who we serve. We care about our inner circle, and we bring the human into everything that we do.
Right.
And so, no exception with Josh, an individual who you can tell not only very open to be who he is and at what he does, but very passionate about bringing that, like he calls it, H2H, human to human connection
Yeah.
in the socials, especially for him recently in LinkedIn. And he's
Yeah.
done amazing work. So, yeah, awesome dude.
Yeah, man. Thank you for saying that. And I knew that you would really dig him because like this is who you are too. You're a an expert in sales, but not the traditional sales, not
Hmm.
the traditional ABC boiler room type of stuff. And you're making this movement on how to bring more humanness to the sales area. Even though there are, like, I know you had a post a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week, where it was about serving versus selling, and then I chimed in there and kind of, pushed a little bit there because of the
I
context of it,
love it.
right? And
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about that because that's pretty
You know
important to
what?
understand.
I I think we should because that was the first video that got a lot of traction. I'm actually going to find it. I'm going to tell you how many impressions so far, and still I'm having comments on it. So yeah, yeah, we got to talk about that one. Oh shoot, did I lose you, Joey?
I just changed the view of it. Can you not see me?
Oh, okay, now I hear you and see you. Yep.
Oh, okay. So I was saying, set up the context of what we're talking about so everybody knows of what we're talking about
Yes.
here.
Okay, let's get to this. Okay. So here's the context. No. Let me start with what I did, and then that way you and I can have this conversation live. So I said that that selling is not serving. And I believe that because there is some connection, a mindset behind hearing that that you are being led to believe, if you just hear that, you're being led to believe that you're supposed to be serving to get a sale. However, in my opinion, if I'm going to serve someone, I'm not expecting a thing. If I'm going to sell someone, I'm expecting to sell. And there is a unique approach to do it the right way. And then there is the approach out there, which is an outdated sales technique that is doing it not caring about the other person and just basically trying to make a sale.
Right.
But that's how it all started, right? With that video. And I'm so glad you jumped in because that's is the fact. The fact is that there are people out there in the sales profession industry,
Hmm.
whether it's an entrepreneur, a business owner, a sales team, whatever they want to call themselves out there, SDR, business development, there's all these titles. But point is, we need to sell. If we're running a business, we need to sell.
Yeah.
And the
And
mindset is so different, you know?
yeah, okay, so we can talk about that. And so I'll give from my reason why I jumped in on it because it violated one of um, my three pillars, right? Because my
That's
second
right.
pillar is serve, not sell. But
Yes.
again, there's context around it, right? So it's
Right.
about like build the tribe, serve, not sell, and then respect their timeline. You put all that together, everything changes. And you're right. If it's just like no, serve, not sell, and there's no context around it, including whether it's from me or from you, it's like it's how the person perceives what that means. So
Exactly.
what I was saying is that look, I know for a fact that serving in a way without expectation, because you even said that in your post, like it's not that about you, and you just said it now, like you're if you're serving, that means you don't expect anything. I'm like, yeah, bang on, that's exactly the point. But there's also a place where that if I have a job and my job is to go to whatever 8 hours a day and get on the phone and sell people, it's very difficult for me to serve. Like that's a completely different conversation. However, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, it doesn't mean I have to be a jackass about it either. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could go into a place where, look, dude, you gotta, your quota is 100 sales per week or whatever. Get those sales, um, and so yeah. Speak to that for a second. I'll just leave it there for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I mean, yes. The So this is interesting, the context behind what I did, because it showed in the post. There was a couple of people have said, oh, interesting. That's something to think about, because here is what I wanted people to think about. Yes, I started that video with saying that selling is not serving, but I ended the video with saying that instead of thinking that, or instead of approaching our sales calls, right? Or whatever you want to call them, discovery calls, sales calls, instead of approaching them with a mindset thinking, I'm here to serve you, not to sell you, but the fact is that you are there to sell something. Why don't we go with the mindset of selling is actually asking or gaining, or gaining that ability to be able to recommend something, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Like earning the right to recommend something. Now
Now,
that
okay, let me stop you there
something,
for 1 second,
okay,
because
yeah.
so see again, there can be so many different perspectives of this, right? So do you mean earning the right to say or suggest something in that moment or not?
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm telling you, this is the reason why. You, and I can't remember that day why I did it. I just felt. I think I'm sure I must have heard it or read something. I'm sure it's something ignited that, and I
You
just did it, dude.
you just wanted to jerk my
I
chain. Like I know Joey's
but
gonna be.
I wasn't even thinking of you. But when you posted that, I thought, oh, this is good,
Yeah.
because then, as like you got excited about what you're teaching, I
Yeah.
also got super excited about, dude. But so the point was this, right? So when you're gaining you're earning that ability, not earning, but you're earning that trust, you're earning the right, with the client, the customer that's on the phone, the prospective client. You're
Yeah.
earning the right through the conversation that you can recommend something. Now that does not mean you're going to sell something on that call.
Okay.
Recommending something means, you know what, Joey? I think I'm not the guy for you. I'm going to have to recommend you to my so and so, my this company, my that person.
Okay.
Okay? Or
Okay.
or based on everything we have talked about, and I can tell, right, we're building this relationship. Can I recommend something because this is my expertise, and I just want to share with you what I feel could support you, could help you, could do something, right? That approach, as soon as we have that ability to transform that conversation into, because I earned the right, because you're not going to tell me, no, you're here to sell me. No, again, there's so many steps before getting to that point. This is not just picking up the phone one time and
Right. Right.
convincing people to trust you, right?
Right.
But when you get to that point, Joey, you and I experience it. When we get to the point of someone asking, please take my money because I want what you have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Please, I've been chasing you for months and I just have to see what, inside. I just need you. I just need your program. When you get to that point, wow, it is so easy to just basically say, okay, well, I guess I'm going to
100%.
have to enroll you, right? But what's happening right now, again, my point on that was that there is a confusion, maybe, or there is maybe a hyped up, I don't know, some sort of either not training, because I wasn't going to say training, but maybe the content out there, right? They're hyping up that you're either selling and serving. I actually saw it today. I had that same conversation
Really?
today, Joey.
Okay. Okay.
Someone sends me a message and says, like, literally so cool. They sent me to a link of this article about Zig Ziglar. And in the article, it talks about how to do the real good sales, like genuine selling, right? But through the article, they even highlighted for me that right there it says sell to serve, sell to serve. And I thought, wait, that's interesting that it says sell to serve. So I had to respond back and I said, hey, I appreciate that you sent me that article. In fact, I read it. And if you read closely, the sales process that I know Zig Ziglar, the sales process that he has is that he talks about, yes, you have to have a heart of serving someone, but his approach was that serving comes when you're after that sale.
Right.
You sell to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm not talking it. Yeah, I completely agree with that because for me, I don't call it sell to serve. I call it a profitable relationship, right? Because it's
Right.
a
Right.
relationship long term. I said, what I'm talking about is before you get on that call, what's in your heart? Do you think that by thinking that you're there on that call, on that conversation, that you're going to serve, you're going to pretend that you're going to serve them, you appreciate them, you're this, and then all of a sudden you're going to expect a, hey, what do you have for me to buy? No. You either are going to call, you're making those calls because you're selling something, or you're making those calls because you're serving, but you have to be careful. And the scenario is, as you explained in that post, is that in our circle, Joey, you know that we are heart-centered individuals. So in our circle, that's like a norm, right? I'm not going to sell you on the first call. I'm not going to call you to try to push you to connect with me because I'm pretending to be somebody that I'm not, and I'm not going to follow up until you buy. That's not us. But in the world out there, Joey, like in the corporate world and many small businesses, they have this idea that they still are stuck with one call close, right?
Yes. Yes.
One
Yes.
sales call, you close in the first call, or you follow up until they buy.
Right. Right.
And then they start telling, right, then they start talking about, oh, sales should be to serve. Don't think of sales like sales. Nobody likes to be sold. Maybe think of serving. I'm like, that's bullcrap. You either are going to sell, but sell right, sell the right way, do it professionally without pushing, or you're going to serve and don't expect a thing. Don't get me started.
Dude, I'm saying the same thing. Like, don't get me started, because like there's no, like there's no argument here at all. Like what you said,
No,
it's all about
of course
context.
not.
And so,
Yes.
again, if you ask me, if you said, okay, Joey, what does your sales process look like, or whatever, and because you said a couple things there, and I don't know if you really meant it or not, when you said that you're going and calling, you're calling people to make the sale or whatever. That's an outbound thing, and that's a whole different paradigm as well. So for me,
Mhm.
that never happens. I'm never ever doing outbound stuff. And
Mhm.
the inbound for me is all about serving without expectation whatsoever. Now, what I mean by that is that there is a hope that someone will ask. So I am going in with, maybe I'm going to talk to Eddie today, and I just need to serve him on what he needs today, and maybe there's a chance that he will ignite some kind of an opening for there to be a conversation about Atlas. Like, hey man, like what is it that you really do? I'm not understanding what you do. Like, how can you help me further this problem? But it's never an expectation, where it used to be an expectation. So for me, I had a problem with it. I Not a problem with the sales, but just because I couldn't move people into any sale whatsoever. Now,
Right.
there are times when people will come to a call, which is, it's far and few between right now, because first of all, I don't get on a lot of calls. But regardless of the modal of how you do it, whether it's in chat or
Mhm.
email or what, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
It's very
Mhm.
rare that I will get into a sales specific conversation. The greatest thing that I found for me, Eddie, is that when those do happen, like, hey man, I'm interested in Atlas, and I just need to know more about it. More about that. Like, dude, that is a setup that they are initiating to say, sell me on this, and we both
Mhm.
know it. And
Mhm.
there's no aggression, there's no anything. And I
Mm-mm.
literally will say a lot of
Right.
times, okay, Eddie, okay, we're here to talk about Atlas. I'm just going to put my sales hat on and answer any questions you need, and try to, like, and they invite that into that conversation. So you're right.
That's right.
In that context, I am there to sell Atlas. Am I
Yes.
pissed if they don't? No. Am I
Mhm.
expecting it? No. I'm still hoping it, but
Mhm.
the job is to sell Atlas.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
most
I
of the
think
time, it's all about serving to get to that point.
yeah, see that's the mindset that you already have. You're entering into that conversation and genuine conversation so that you can really support the individual, but at the same time, you want to even at the same simultaneously, you want to figure out if this is the right time for them, if this is the right person you want to work with. Like all of this stuff is happening like it should in a relationship, right? We when I met my wife, I didn't ask her right away on the date. I actually, in fact, I never asked her on the date, but that's another story because I wanted to make sure that is she who she says she is or who people say she is, right? So the point is that you already have that mindset and you come into the conversations that way.
Right.
The
Okay.
problem, there's a problem that I see.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I see is that people come with expectations. Let me rephrase that. Not people, sales individuals, anybody who's selling something, right? A
Mm-hmm.
salesmanship mentality. And so when they come with that, they come with an expectation.
Right.
So
Right.
therefore, when somebody says no, or worse, they never even ask to see what it is that you're selling. Now you take it personal because you already expected all this. They teach you to build rapport and overcome objections, and like you kind of are prepared with all of that. And when should I do it, or should I? Is this the time? Ask the right open-ended questions. Like you're so
Yeah. Yeah.
prepared, but when things don't happen that way,
Yeah.
it's like you're crushed, right? And
Right.
now at the end of that conversation, you're thinking, what the heck did I do wrong? Or worse, you have a sales manager, the sales leadership telling you, oh, well, let's review your call. See, you could have done this better. You could have done this is where you should have, and this. And then at the end of the week, you have to show your KPIs, your metrics, right? Your
Right,
numbers.
right.
Well, look, the numbers show you made so many calls, you got with so many people, and you didn't close anybody. So you know what? You suck. Like, you see what I'm saying? So it's a
But whose
really
fault?
is
But I shouldn't even say the word fault. But where does the blame, again, blame may not be the right word, but in the situation like that, if I go into a job and somebody said, your KPIs aren't, you're not reaching them, you're doing this wrong and that wrong, and I have pressure from upper management, what do I do? What's the
exactly.
situation?
Exactly. So, it's an unfortunate situation and it's an unfortunate position, especially if you're the one doing those calls or making those sales, right? So to answer your question, it falls in leadership, always leadership.
Right. Okay.
I'm actually going to have some conversations with a few CEOs here in the next few weeks, and because it all starts from leadership, the vision, the why, the what they do, and why they do it, the purpose, right? So it falls trickles down. But we can do something about it individually as you're making those goals, because I do it, and I hope that other people attempt to do the same thing, which is simple. It all starts here in the mindset, right? So now, when I go to a call, if you're in this position that you have to meet certain numbers and your leadership is telling you some, unfortunately, some outdated techniques, okay, you can still work on here. So now, when you're working on here, one thing that you can do is start thinking, well, I can't control the outcome. I really cannot. I can only be myself. So I'm going to be 100% fully present, genuine, listening, actively listening, and having a real human to human connection, real conversation to even find out if there's something that me or my company can do for them. So I would like to earn that right. I would like to have this prospective client asking me more about why it is that, what it is that we do and how is it that we can do it for them.
Okay. So you're
That
talking.
should be a different mindset, right?
Okay,
Up
so
here.
like there's a couple things that you're talking about here that I want to point out because
Mhm.
in relationships, or and again I'm not I'm not the expert in relationships, rapport building and all that, I'm learning, but you're talking about active listening, which is incredibly important, and empathy, having empathy for the other person. And so you're you're fully concentrated on the conversation. This is one of the things I like to talk about to my Atlas students when I'm giving them any kind of prompt. I'll use the prompt as rather than a script, but prompt questions or something to get conversations started and or to continue conversations going, not a 1, 2, 3 step thing to say all these and then get the sale and then they think. So they're more prompts. And so when you're concentrated in between those prompts, that is active listening. And can you speak to active listening for a second? Like, what is active
Yeah.
listening, and give me an example of that
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
Well, first I'll let you do the example because I
Mhm.
made a huge mistake about like reading it. I'm like, oh, active listening. Okay, I got it, but I
Mhm.
was doing it
Mhm.
wrong, and then I learned how to do it the right way. So, can you explain what
Mhm.
active listening is and maybe give an example of it?
Yeah, the simple understanding for that is practically listening exactly to what the other person is saying, and responding with a very easy response. Like, I'll give you an example. I think that'll be easier to say. So when I'm having conversations, I'm listening to their emotion behind whatever it is that they're talking to me about. I'm not really so caught up on every word, the technical words, or the things that they're saying with their words. I'm really caught up more on who they are as a person and their emotion behind what they're saying. Because There have been times when people are frustrated and they haven't told me that they're frustrated. And all I will say is, frustrated, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm frustrated. Yeah, you're right. Like they will say that. Yeah, I'm frustrated because da, 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 da. That's all I had to say. I didn't
Yeah.
have to say, oh, well, it sounds to me what you're telling me is that you are frustrated. Is that right? Like, what? Am I a
Yeah. See,
robot?
yeah. See, that's kind of where I messed this up because I believed that active listening was more like a mirroring thing. So I'll give you an example of this where I screwed it up, where somebody would say to me, goes, so what's the challenge going on? And they'll say, well, I've been at this for about 8 months now. I did website pages, I did email sequences, I did 3 webinars, um, built all this stuff out, and nothing seems to be working. I don't know how to get any leads. So and then I would go, okay, so what I'm hearing is you built a web page, you built, right, and repeat exactly what they say. You built some sales pages, you did email sequences, and you were doing this for about 8 months, and you can't get leads. Is that right? And that's not active listening. To me, if somebody said that to me, I'm like, dude, like, seriously, right? So,
Exactly.
right. So to your
Exactly.
point,
Because right.
yeah, that there. So basically, what I would say in that situation is like, so wow, you've been at this a long time and it's not working, right? And you're like, and then they're like, yeah, that's exactly it. So okay, so let's dive into that a little bit more, right? It opens up a conversation.
Right. Exactly. And again, it's it's really that's one of the trainings that I focus on the most is relationships, is
Right.
communication, is person to person, face to face communication. Because I have had the question, oh well, Eddie, where is in your process, in your training process, where is overcoming objections? I'm like, I don't teach that. I what I and and I get that face, especially if they're executives, right? I get that face, that blank look, like what? And I explain it this way. I say, well, listen, have you ever heard or maybe read books about the power of your mind? Oh yeah, whatever, whatever. I said, did you notice that most of those trainings or most of those advice or books, they usually talk about how much we capture through our eyes, through our ears, and that it becomes us. And then we start acting that way, right?
Right. Right.
They say, yeah, right. Well, that's my stand behind objections. Because if we focus on overcoming objections, if we're focused on how to do it, if we have to come up with a rebuttal every time and we are practicing and practicing and practicing, guess what we're going to get more of? Objections, right? So instead, why not have some active listening skills training? How about instead pick up the book How to Win Friends and Influence Others and start mastering the art of actually influencing others?
Yeah.
Because that way you don't have to be prepared, right? You're already set. Okay, if they tell me this, I'm going to say that. I mean, right? And then maybe they won't even say it, or maybe worse, they'll say it a totally different way that's going to throw you off. And now they see that your practiced, your
Yeah. Right.
techniques is
Right.
not going to
Right.
work on them. See?
Wouldn't you say, okay, dude, like, wouldn't you say that, I mean, objections, if you want to talk about objections, wouldn't you say categorize them that there's like maybe 3 or 4 main buckets
I
of it,
have. I
right?
have.
And say that, so hear me out for a second, because there's 2 ways
Yeah.
I would push back to that dude. Because, first of all, you know me, like, I like to stir up the pot. Um,
Yeah.
but I'd be like, hey, okay, so let me tell you the first one, and then I'll jump back to what I was originally going to say. The first one would be, dude, if we're having like objection conversations all day long, are we speaking to the right people? Let's think about that. Okay, that would be right. So let me jump back to the other one. So like objections to me fall into like 3 main buckets, right? Like, is it right for me? I don't have any money to buy it right now, or it's not the right time. Like, and there may be another big bucket, but everything else underneath that basically falls into those buckets of like one of those 3 things. So you're right. Like the objections are It doesn't matter, dude. Like these are the three things they're going to tell us. It's not right for me. I don't have the money, or it's not the right time for me right now. Whatever. Like call me
Hmm.
back, or let me go speak to my
Yeah,
boss. Like whatever goes in it. So we already know that those are the three objections we're going to face every single day. So without going
every
into all the
time.
details of it, having scripts about what those specific things are, why don't we just start listening to people, right? We already
Exactly.
know it's not right for them. We already know they're not going to have the money, basically.
Yeah.
We already know they're going to say that it's not the right time. So just get into it.
It's
Am
like
I off my rocker here, Eddie? I don't know.
no, no. It's like remember, and again, it all comes from the outdated training, but it all comes
Yeah.
from the movies. Remember those movies where I remember this one, and I can't remember the title. If I remember, I'll tell you later. But I remember this movie that they had written all of this, what they were going to get objections,
Yeah.
and so the guy got all excited because they heard something new, so they went and wrote it on the and it's a list. But like again, this is the type of things that we are actually, the truth is that we're moving away from that. You and I, Joey,
Thank
we
God.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're it's not going to work anymore, and this is, I guess, timing, right? You and I are positioned in a certain time right now that we can be the leaders behind this, because we've been doing it for so long, but they're catching on. But yeah, that's where it comes from. So not only to your going back to the first thing that you said, absolutely right about, hey, you're getting the wrong people on the call. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Maybe if I was just.
duh. Like if you're getting a bunch of rejection, if you feel rejected every single call, that means you're calling the wrong people, or worse, your marketing is not working because it's attracting the wrong people. And so again, it's all like in those big companies, it's all a numbers game, and it's unfortunate because
Exactly.
they see everything as a number instead of quality. They want quantity. So there's so many things wrong about that, but the point is that here is how simple I see it. When I make a mistake, which I make so many, I've learned now to take a step back. I stop. It's like, oh crap, this didn't work. So I just take a step back. There are some times, Joey, that I come to you and you're the one who's like, dude, you're like overthinking this. I'm like, you're right. And that's a step back, right? And then you kind of look at everything and you're like, oh, snap. Okay. I forgot that it's just this simple, or I forgot that this is the attitude behind what I'm doing. So that's what we all need to do. We need to take a step back and stop thinking that you're going to make that sell on that first call. Stop thinking that you're going to be prepared to overcome objections. Just stop thinking in general about, oh my goodness, I need to make this sale right now because I need it. Because if you start thinking all that stuff, it's gonna show,
Yeah.
and
It'll
it's
shut you
gonna
down as well
it'll
when it doesn't
shut you
pan
down
out.
completely.
So let me
Yes.
ask you this: like, so we talk about genuine conversations, and this is another area where my mindset or perspective had to shift because I would get pushback on it, and maybe from a lot of people who are smarter than me or whatever it was just a difference of opinion. And so, what does genuine conversation mean to you? What is
Yeah.
that?
You have to know who you are. Starts with you, right? It's so simple, but it's the truth. It starts with you.
Okay.
So you have to know. Let me talk about me. I have to know that I am an encourager. I have to also know that I care about people. And I also enjoy the fact that if someone likes me, I like them back. And it feels so good. So I have to be genuine on who I am.
Okay.
That communicates in my conversation as someone who is just, hey man, you're just such a nice guy. Like, you've given me so much already. What is it that you're doing, right? It's just because that's who I am. So genuine means it's just really being true and honest and open about really your personality, and especially if you're in sales or any
Yeah.
source of marketing outreach, you need to keep that personality, your character, your true self into those things that you're doing.
Okay, so now let's move it to the sales conversation itself. So
Yeah.
if I was your boss and I said, okay, dude, I need you to go, make some sales today, but I want you to have genuine conversations.
Yeah. So you just open up the doors. So that's all you're doing. A genuine conversation is basically. Let me give you the four things that you do, right? So
Okay.
so now the first thing is you have to start with questions, right? Questions. If you start with questions, or when you start with questions, questions actually lead to the conversation, right? If that's how it starts, it could be very complicated as making cold calls, right? So when I make cold calls, I'll say something like, "Hey Joey, hey, I'll be upfront with you. This is a cold call, and if you want to give me 30 seconds, go for it. If not, you can hang up right now." It's a question, right? I just gave you a question. You either hang
Well, you
up or
gave me an
you stay
ultimatum.
with me.
You gave me an
Right.
option, right? It was
He
like,
gave you
hey,
an option, right? So I'm entering with, "Hey, this is," and so now you tell me. The conversation starts when you say, "Oh yeah, go ahead, shoot, what you got?" Boom. Then I go. So the conversation starts. Once the conversation keeps going, the next thing that happens is relationship,
mhm.
right? I mean, that's how you and I met. I went to you. I'm like, "Can I sit? Can we have or whatever?" I don't know what I said, but then I ended up sitting right
You
there at your
basically,
table.
like, there was a commonality when we met. You
Yeah.
used the commonality. Hey, man, are you going to the event too? And that was an
Boom.
opening,
Question.
right? I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, wow. So, like, there was
There
an
you go.
immediate, like, that's a big thing about bonding, right? It's like,
Yes.
yeah, I'm from Florida too. Oh, wow, cool. Like,
Yeah.
you have an
And we
immediate bond. So
started. We
that's how you
started. We
started that
started.
conversation with me. I'll never forget it.
Yeah. Okay. So you see, that was conversation, right?
Yeah.
Conversation led to what? A relationship. Dude, remember we went out for lunch with all those the crowd. We were walking around. We were sitting down. We just started clicking, right?
Yeah.
And the relationship, the bond has become like, well, so many years we've known each other now, like 4 or 5 years. I don't even know, but it's that long, right?
It's long. Yeah. It's
Okay.
longer time.
So questions lead to conversations. Conversation leads to relationship. Relationships lead to opportunities, right?
Yes.
Because you and I have communicated, have had relationships. You have introduced me to people. I have introduced you to people. Opportunities start showing up. And all of a sudden, all of us know that opportunities turn into sales. But what's happening now is with this genuine, conversations, what's happening now is that they start with questions and they want to jump directly into the sales. Maybe they maybe want to do a little bit of exploration with conversation, but sometimes that's it. It's like, "Hey, I'm here to sell you something. Do you need something?" Or they send you a message. I'm sure you get a lot of those too, right? And,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm selling this," and so genuine conversations start with a genuine approach, opening the door and really not expecting anything but a conversation. That's
Okay,
being
so yeah,
genuine.
I'm glad you ended it with that. Can I give you like
Yeah.
what I learned from this process is because I would get pushback when people I would say you need to have genuine conversations that are not about the sale, and people would say, "What are you talking about?" It's like, well, just you're getting on a call and you're actually there to serve, not sell, and have a genuine conversation about what you can do or how to help them in that moment, not necessarily about the sale. And it's basically about like not being attached to the sale. That was what I look at it from. And there I would get
Mhm.
pushback. Say, well, why are you on the call? Or that's BS because you do want a sale, like whether it's an hour in the future. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but it's not like we've been talking about this all throughout this call about expectations. So first of all, my genuine conversation is about one thing: connection. And you just ended it with that. So I am there to make a connection. And even Joshua talked about it today, right? So when
Yes.
I'm starting a conversation, a genuine conversation without ulterior motives, because this is where my brain would get messed up too. I'm like, okay, ulterior motives, what does that actually mean? maybe in the future of some kind, there is this ulterior motive to sell. So am I lying to myself saying, no, I'm not having a genuine conversation? But the truth is that the genuine conversation in those moments are all about connection, and the ulterior motive is not there to sell at the moment. So it's all about connection. And even if it was a genuine, genuine, even if it was just me saying, hey man, I just wanted to reach out and connect. I just think that we're on the same page here. I just wanted to just connect with you and say hi, and that's it. And
That's it.
and so it's about, for me, and you already said it a lot of times too, is about building that relationship to then open up maybe opportunities later on that may
Yeah,
present
absolutely.
themselves as a sales opportunity or a sales invitation. But that's what I mean. And anybody listening to this, I'd love to even know from you. Just let us know in the chat. Like, I know that I'm not getting the Facebook Live or Facebook group ones. If you're asking questions there, I can't see them, so I'm not ignoring them or anything. I just can't see them the way it's all set up here. But just let us know, like hashtag live, by the way, if you're here, and hashtag replay. But if you have a question or input on this, I'd love to know from you too, because I can see some of the comments coming through, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook, or I think LinkedIn is already broken. But anyway, so back to this. So that's
But
what it
yeah, no.
means to me, Eddie.
So right, yeah, you said it right. So I think that's where it will end. Genuine conversation will end into, you have to start with questions, because obviously, hey, my name is Eddie. What's yours? Right? Like, you have to start with some sort of question to build that conversation, and that's where genuine conversations would end. A conversation that could potentially turn into a relationship or not. I mean, Joey, you have had experiences where you have met somebody and that's it. It was just that one meeting. I mean, it wasn't that you did something wrong. It wasn't that they did something wrong. It's just what it
It
is,
just
right?
wasn't, it wasn't a right fit.
Exactly. So the same thing, the approach on this conversations, like for you, the inbounds that you receive is the same exact type, right? You're just basically, it's going to work out or not. I mean, I'm okay with that. So what's happening out there is that they're trying to shorten the sales cycles.
All the
They're
time, yeah.
all of this
Yeah.
stuff, right? And so that's the pressure that someone will have. And again, it's because it's out there a lot. Most startups or small businesses or content creator coaches, they will start listening to the stuff, and now they feel that, oh, a sales cycle, this and this stage, so I need to have that. So now, there's that pressure instead
Dude,
of instead of doing what we're talking about, right?
you know what? I think that has been a huge opportunity for me as a person who never was great at selling, who tried the other way too, because I used to have my my objection handling, I don't know, there was 30, 40, 50 of them on a PDF spread out over my second monitor over here, and I'd be trying to look over there to see, well, which one are they hitting so I can respond back. Wow, what a time. But like, anybody listening to this who is not comfortable with doing sales and everything, I'll just give you from my perspective. It makes things super easy when you're coming from a heart-centered approach, because so many people, because almost everybody, I don't know anybody who doesn't feel as though they're being sold some way, shape, or form. So then when they do get on a call with us, like with me, okay, and they're expecting to be sold. So the expectation, so here's point number one. The expectation has shifted in my world. It's shifted from me expecting the sale to them expecting me to sell them. Okay,
Yes.
that I'm going to
Right.
pressure them.
Mhm.
Fantastic. So that puts me in a different position. Okay, so if they're expecting a sale, and I don't come in with a sale, or there's no pressure, all of a sudden the landscape has changed for them. Okay,
Mhm.
point number two is that if I say to them, to some degree, and then again, I don't have these things scripted in my head. It all depends on what the conversation goes, but it would be something to the effect of, "Hey, man, like, I'm here to connect. I'm here to like help you move along, and whatever it is." And like, well, and if they said something to the effect of, "I really want to know what you do and how you," and I say, "Look, I really don't know like what to tell you at this point, because I need to get to know more about what you." And by the way, this is not a sales call, and it's true, because it never is for me. I tell them this. This is not a sales call. If it turns into something like that, where during our conversation you want to ask me something, just just ask me. Just say, hey man,
Mm-hmm.
what about this or what about that? I'm just leaving it in your
Mm-hmm.
court. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving them direction or choice. I'm
Yep.
throwing the thing, the ball is back in their court rather than where we're like, no, we have to take control. We have to take control of the situation and handle the calls and
Yeah,
everything else.
control the
I'm
whole
like,
conversation.
BS, man. I'm giving it all to
Yeah.
them, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell them instructions. I'll say, look, interrupt me,
Yeah.
ask me questions, and if there's ever a point where you're like, you know what, I've heard enough. Like, just tell me how I can work with you. Do that for me too. Like, that doesn't happen on every call, but depending again on the
Mm-hmm.
context of that call, I will
Mm-hmm.
say that to them.
Mm-hmm.
So to
Mm-hmm.
me, because of all this pressure that's going on in the world and everybody's
Mm-hmm.
wanting to sell, and then they get someone else who's coming at them saying, this is just for us to connect and for me to answer some questions, serve, not sell, right? And you just let me know where you want it to go from that point. No big deal, no pressure whatsoever. That's how I've seen my sales increase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not, and before anybody listening to this, it's not because it happens right on that call a lot of times. Sometimes it does, sometimes,
Yep. Yep.
but it opens up that door like, wow, this guy like really did not pressure me. And that
Mm-hmm.
also opens up the door for further conversation in the future. So those touch points or those reach outs are more, they feel the genuineness of that reach
Yes.
out. That it's not like,
Yes.
here's the follow up, here's the
Yep.
pitch. It's not. They're
Yep.
like, hey man, thank you
Yep.
for following up, right? They've removed that this guy's not here to sell me.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, there
Mm-hmm.
was a whole bunch of stuff there, Eddie. So
No,
what do you think about
but
that?
but you know what? So if anything, to kind of look at this as if some of you listening, watching, have some sort of KPIs or metrics or something, if you want to look at it, you're probably asking yourself, okay, how the heck am I going to do that? Because
Yeah.
now I'm having this conversation. I'm supposed to be genuine because I'm asking, it's just a conversation. It's not turning into something yet, right? How do you do that? Well, think of it this way. And this is what you just hit, but I'm going to put it into the unfunnel, what you call. But so I'm trying not to say that, but let's call it a flow, a pipeline. Let's call it a pipeline,
Well, yeah,
right?
but dude, like we have to agree, okay? Just so like we're on the same page. It's not that you and I are, we completely disagree with each other. But we're in different areas of sales
Yeah,
per se, right?
different,
And
different.
that's
Yes,
fine.
that's fine.
You're creating a movement and a shift in the area of what you are, which there are funnels, pipelines.
Mm-hmm,
End of the day, you got need this many closes or KPIs and all that stuff. I'm totally cool with all of
mm-hmm.
that. Like so,
Yeah,
if that's the area that you're operating in, and you're saying I understand we need to get sales, but I don't like the ABC approach. Just as a general thing, I don't like
right,
that
right,
hard sales aggressive approach. Here's how we're
right,
going to approach this. So there's nothing wrong with a funnel
right.
because everything that, yeah, I mean, like my unfunnel approach really is like, yeah, dude, there's still a funnel there. Whether it's a shaking of a hand and then I give you money, that's a funnel, right? But
Mm-hmm,
my unfunnel
mm-hmm.
approach is getting rid of all of the crap that's in between and all these other things. That's just want
Yeah,
to make
the
that very
extra,
clear.
the fluff, right? The
Yeah,
fluff.
all of the
So
bumps and bruises and all these things and hey
right,
man, could you have two credit card thingies and all that stuff
yeah, exactly.
anyway, I just want to make
So
that clear.
okay, so to that point, in a perfect world, right? In a
Yeah.
perfect world, the marketing department or your marketing campaigns
Yeah.
are attracting your dream clients, right? Your ideal client personas, the ICPs out there,
If
or
you're
dream
doing it
clients.
right.
Right.
If you're
If you're
doing it
doing it right. That's what
right.
I'm saying.
Because a lot of
In a
times
perfect,
it
in a
just okay,
perfect
yeah, cool.
world,
Yeah.
right? That will be like amazing, right? So the marketing campaign is attracting that right person. Okay. So then they go into the funnel, right? And eventually they'll end up in a CRM. And CRM, right? You have a sales pipeline, right? With stages. Okay.
Exactly
All
right.
right. Okay. So again, talking about a perfect world, if we were to do what we're talking about and train about that, active listening, building relationship, really caring about somebody and being the expert, the professional through it all, then that means that a pipeline serves as for one thing only, not so much for selling, for maintaining, relationships,
Yes, yes, yes.
for
Thank you,
right,
thank you.
for
Yes, yes, yes.
nurturing relationships, because now all of these people that are coming to us and talk to us, not only did they get shocked because we're like, yeah, this is not even a sales call. I mean, hi, you know, my name is Eddie. What's yours? What, right? So this is like they're shocked, but then the follow-ups are not the, oh, I have to follow up so many times because this way I'm gonna get that, whatever. No, it's just genuine follow-up. Like, hey, I remember you told me your girl's birthday was so,
Exactly,
just sending you
exactly.
a little happy, or going to LinkedIn or going to Facebook and seeing a post and saying, man, that was really cool what you just said, right? I mean, kudos to that, or resharing it. Like, those are connections, contacts, right? But imagine having hundreds of those right there in that pipeline. Because see, now what's going to happen is, I talked about it, opportunities starts to show up in those relationships. Now you have one sale, two sales, three, five. And now you're just focused on nurturing, being who you are, real. And so
Exactly.
now the sales cycle will actually be shorter. See, the problem is that we don't have the patience to
Right,
do all that work because we need it now, right?
right, right.
So that's the perfect world. And I think we need to start thinking that, crap, if you have the ability to change some things around in your sales process, then maybe you should start focusing on building, like you do, Joe. You do it very well. You start connecting and engaging and following through who you are with others and serving. And all of a sudden, 6 months later, a year later, you've had this all the time. Oh, yeah, we've been watching you. I've been looking at you. I've seen this, I've seen that. And now is the time. And you're like, who are you again?
Yeah,
you know?
it's kind of like that. It happens like sometimes it happens within 24 hours or 48
Yeah.
hours, right? Tell me
Yeah.
about Atlas, and then boom, I've got money in my bank account. And if I looked at that from that level, I think I'm a hero. Like, look at me, I can make a sale in 48 hours with a stranger, but they weren't a stranger. They've been watching for months, sometimes years at a time. But I want to go back to the pipeline thing, because what you said is super important, and I'm glad you said it. I was going to say it if you didn't say it, which is that it's about maintaining the connection and the relationship. And so for anybody listening to this, my Atlas people know this because they always ask me, like, how do you maintain? I think they use that. How do you handle all the conversations going on? And I use Notion. It isn't really what you use, but my relationship manager, like, I still have stages there. It actually says in the property stage, because I want to know what stage you're in terms of our conversation. So and the only reason I do that, one reason, it's not because it's like, okay, when do I sell Eddie? It's more about me not looking like a goofball when I go back to a conversation with you to say, like, let's say, for example, I'll give you an example, that we get into a conversation about Atlas and you ask me, and then eventually I send you the doc. I send you, here's the information, right? Uh, and you know the process that I go through, the message
Mhm.
navigator and all
Mhm.
that. So let's say, I don't know, a year from now, you reach back out and say, hey man, I'm interested in Atlas. And it didn't put that I've already sent you the doc. I've already asked you some questions. And I start out with,
Mhm.
great, Eddie, can I ask you a little bit more about your business? You're like, uh, right? You like you may not say anything. You might go, yeah, sure, but like in your brain,
Yeah.
you're going, this guy,
Yeah.
he already asked me, like, you know.
Oh my goodness.
And so
Yes.
that's why, because I'm very big on how can I protect my
Mhm.
reputation or character as much as
Mhm.
possible. And that's one
Mhm.
thing, like, don't look like an idiot, even though it still happens, right? But don't
But
look like an idiot. And so
but
that's where
that's the right
the
way.
pipeline comes into play. I just want to catch up
Yeah.
again, because
Yeah.
and this is not, you know, one of my favorite quotes in the entire world is from Albert Einstein, and he says, never memorize what you could look up. Basically, that's what he says. Never memorize what you can look up.
Mm.
Okay. And so to me, I'm like, that's all I'm doing. I'm not automating it. I'm not artificial intelliging it. I'm just putting it
Mhm.
aside so it's out of my brain about, oh, I spoke to Eddie about that. I got to remember that. So that
Mhm.
why? so I can go into the new genuine conversation and be fully present with that person rather than having all of this crap in my brain and subconscious remembering how
Trying
far did
to
I talk to
figure
Eddie
out.
about, right?
Hmm. I mean, listen, it happens. It happens in every situation because what you're talking about is very long term. A CRM again, right?
Sometimes
Or
it's long term.
Notion.
That
Sometimes it's long term,
sometimes.
but a CRM, for example, does the same work, right? If we're
Right.
keeping track of notes, when we connect, that's good.
That's right.
But it also happens with in that same, if you're having a video conversation, a discovery call, sales call, whatever you want to call it, if you're having that conversation with that person, it's happening there too. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a stickler about this, and you'll always see me with my notebook, always some sort of piece of paper and some sort of pen around me, because when what you just said is so true. I cannot absorb all the information as we're having this conversation, but I like to take notes, certain keywords or certain something that reminds me, not because I'm preparing to sell something, but I can go back and don't sound like a goofball, like, say something that they already have said.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
by the way, which I have seen that. I have heard sales calls, and it's so awful. It's bad on the sales professional. I have heard the calls when you can tell they're following a script, because here the person shows up and they're ready to tell you exactly why they're there, what they need, and how much they've been looking for this. And they're basically there to see if you can handle what they want. And here the sales professionals goes back to the beginning. Oh, so tell me a little bit about what you do. I'm like, holy crap, they just told you everything, and you're stuck in that is so embarrassing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it happens actively in conversations and also in long term as well. It's just very good idea to make sure you keep track of what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's funny because as you're saying that, even like the script, like you can just tell when. Remember when I just talked about like when I have prompts or I give something where it's like prompt conversations or questions or something like that, and I'm always telling my students, look, dude, like you can ask the question, but make sure you're listening because you're not just copying the next question or asking the next question because you just prompted me. Like sometimes you get like they have this script and it might be like, hi, the introduction, and then they'll ask you like where are you from or something, right? So you might it's just so funny because you might get on a call and go, hey Eddie, how's it going? You're like, dude, man, it's so hot in Florida right now. I'm sweating like crazy. Wow, that's amazing. So where in the world are you, Eddie? Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm following. Like, you know what I mean? What would you think? You're like, I'm just waiting for you to shut up so I can answer the next question, right? You just told me. Yeah. And I know we're laughing
Dude,
at it, but it happens, right? Like,
but it happens. You're right, because I will feel so embarrassed. I do. Okay, Joey.
but they don't even know they're doing it because they're following the
Yes,
script,
I
right?
know. It's like, oh my goodness. Like, I'm embarrassed for them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So where in the
is
world
yeah.
am I calling? Where? Holy moly!
No, I think if there is if there's a place for scripts, okay, is for me is when I do the calls, the outreach, and it's an initial one. I don't even like saying cold calls because I think it's ridiculous. It's really stupid to think that there's cold calls, there's warm calls, there's hot calls. That is the stupidest thing I think, because it's just a freaking call, okay? But when I'm doing those outreach and I just know that I'm not even there hoping to get to the right person, but I know I have to go through different levels, I have to have a script. But it's just to begin. It is not the long ones like you talked about, the objection answers. If they say this, you say that, and it's just really the making sure that my seconds count. So
Mhm.
I don't want to sound like a robot, but I also want to make sure that I get the point across right away, because I know that other person is counting the seconds, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
That's where the script will come in. For
Yeah.
anybody, I think is useful, but that's it.
I think that
After
there's like,
that,
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah,
After,
no,
after
I was
that.
gonna say after that, just let it go. Just let it flow naturally. And again, it takes practice, but you have to naturally let the conversation flow into what it's supposed to be, which is at least those different stages, or at least get to that conversation that builds that relationship. And Joe, you had it. You said, oh, did we stuck here? Are we stuck? It kind of stuck here on my side, but you said it. You said that sometimes they're pretty much ready. So, you have to be very active listening, making sure that you're not going to ask them for the sale twice because hey, I'm just ready to buy and I know this is how much. Oh, okay. So what program were you interested? Like
Yeah,
they
so let
just
me tell
told
you a
you how
little. Let me
much.
tell you a little bit more about the program. Like, so, hey, man, how do I pay? Let me tell you a little bit more about the program and how. So yeah, no, like, but to your point, like, so, like, when it comes to scripts, I'm this person who, when I hear the word scripts, I kind of it triggers me. I'm trying not to make it trigger me because, but I also agree that there are. That's why I like to call them prompts or, kind of helpers. Those things where a script to me, and I'm wrong about this. It's just my perception of it because I've been through so many calls, like so where they're not listening to me, they're
Mhm.
just asking the question. And go, did you just hear what I just answered? Because they're reading off a script. That's not what this is. Like, so for me, I had to have my own scripts, like my own questions, like the 5 questions. The job hunt questions is one of the biggest things I teach in Atlas. These are the questions, and I always they're in my head now, like they're there. It's part of my DNA. I'm always asking those questions in some way, shape, or form. Now, what that means is because to your point is you're still trying to navigate the conversation. Again, we're not talking about an
Mhm.
end sale here, but we're still trying to
Mhm.
navigate the conversation so we're not wasting each other's time. And I've been in those conversations too where it's completely my fault, where I've just spent many, many hours just having conversations. And it's not that they're bad people or anything like that. It's just that didn't serve either of us. Maybe it helped them a little bit, but yeah, I don't want to be in those kind of conversations all the time either, because that's not going to
Mhm.
help the business grow at all. So there has to be some kind of, I'll use the word control, but very, very lightly about, so,
Mhm.
and knowing what some questions are that I could steer the conversation back
Mhm.
to what we're talking about is helpful. And
Mhm.
that's where I use
Yeah.
prompts. That's where I
Yeah.
use, oh, wait a minute, let me ask this question, and try to
Mhm.
get that conversation going into an area of, am I serving this person or not? Or is this just about like anything? So that's kind of where scripts come into play for me. And there are these, you know, 5 to 7 questions that are dancing around in my head at all times that I know I can like
Mhm.
return back to, but I don't necessarily use them in an order. And I know that's not what you're saying
Yeah.
either, right? Yeah.
No, no, but to the point is that how I say it is you have to be the expert at what you do. You really do. You
100%.
have to be a yeah, you have to be a professional because you can't show up to a call and rely on this script hoping that it's going to
No.
turn out the exact same way that you're reading it. You have to know your craft. You have to know your industry. You have to know what you sell. Joey, I have had conversations. I have gone to a sales training where I'm prepared. I'm like psyched up and prepared. Like I'm thinking these guys are at another level. So it's a big company. It's a big magazine company that I went to, and so I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta get my stuff together. I can't be messing around. And sure enough, they didn't even have a clue who their ideal potential clients were when they were doing their outreach. So if you can imagine here, again, they're yeah, they may know something, but that made me feel like, man, what the heck are you guys even selling? Because they couldn't even tell me because they had all these different price points. They had all this. I'm like, you're not showing up as the expert. You're not showing up as someone who can actually lead somebody,
Yeah.
influence their decision, to make sure that it's good for them, it benefits them. So you have to know your stuff, and it shows. Your enthusiasm doesn't just naturally show up because you just read a book or because you're following a script. No, you're going to have to know deep inside what it is that you're selling, why it's beneficial for somebody, and do it genuine, right?
Yeah,
With those type of
those are the
stuff.
navigated. I mean, those are the in between points of questions and
Mhm.
answers. Is like you said,
Yep.
and so like that's why I'm a real yeah. I mean, I can't add any more value to what you just said. That you just have to know your
Mhm.
stuff. Like I know my stuff inside and out, and I know that in anything that they're going to bring to the table, I'm either going to be able to answer it or point them to in another direction. That's it.
Mhm.
So there's and I think adaptability is a big word here. So if you're
Mhm.
starting out with a question or two, you need to be able to adapt to the conversation going on, which is another way of saying active listening. Like listen to what's going
Listening.
on here. You know, because
Mhm.
I mean, when I first started trying all this with all the actual scripts, because I gave you, I think, one of my scripts, right? Like I
Oh yeah.
created a 10
Oh,
pager.
you did.
Remember I gave you
Yes.
that whole, and I'm
Yes.
like, okay. And
Yes.
I'm like, well, this is what they're saying to do. So that's what I would do. And sometimes the conversation would jump from wherever the question was to the, like further on down.
Mhm.
And like you were just making fun of the other dude, like they'd bring you back to the beginning, and that's what I was doing. Say, okay, well, yeah, but let me ask you this other question because that's next on my list in my mind, right? And they're already like further beyond that. I'm like, no, that's not how
Yeah.
this is supposed to go. And it was so
Yeah.
clunky. I felt
It
so,
is.
oh my God, you know, and
Mhm.
so, it was because I was trying to sell. I was trying to sell
Yeah.
somebody and just following, well, this is how it's supposed to be done. And for me now, I do have control of the situation.
Mhm.
You know, I have the expertise. I know what the answers are, and I know how to bring the conversation back to the specifics of the conversation rather than just the randomness of whatever that looks like, right? So that's important to
Yeah.
me, but you have
It
to
is.
understand what you're selling for sure and how it's going to impact the other person and being able to adapt away from whatever it is that you've prompted or started the conversation with. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, completely. And and again, again going back to that perfect world, if we actually had training like this and specific things like this, it would be much better. In fact, you
Yeah.
what you're saying right now brought me back to the post that I made today, and I'm gonna tell you why I created this post today was because I saw a video of someone teaching sales, and there was one of those clipped videos, and I heard the whole minute or so, so it wasn't a long one, but it caught my attention when the young lady said they will have access to the funds or have the willingness to find it.
Oh my God.
And I'm thinking, and again, the way that she said it sounded nice, right? And she didn't, but when I heard it, I cringed because that's basically going back to the outdated sales tactics, which says something like this. And this is what I put: they'll find the money if they really want it. So it got, that's not right. And so again, going back to what you're saying, right? Not only do you have to adapt to the conversation, I like what you're talking about, the prompts, because it helps you, actually understanding what questions to make sure you steer the conversation. And all of that fits, but it shouldn't be when you get to that point to have that attitude either, right? You're doing it to find out more about that person and to be real with the fact that yes, I can help you or no, but you've got to be able to be present. Instead, they're teaching that. They still teaching that. Can
Yeah.
you imagine?
Oh, dude, I know it's out there, and I've heard that before. And there's context around that too. Like I know that there are some good, you know, like on the positive side of it, where if they really want it, they'll find the money piece of it. We'll come back to that in a second because I don't operate really in that mindset, but I want to come back to that for a second. But first, I want to talk about what you just said in terms of, you know, being engaged because, you know, when a conversation comes to me, most of the time now they're all pre-sold clients or just trying to get verification on what they already think they know, and they know a lot already. That's usually where now my conversations are. They're just about validating. Yep, that's right. No, no, you almost got that, but here's kind of what it means. I'm just kind of validating, verifying some of the questions. And so it's easier for me because I start off by asking the question, can I ask questions? Like they already know I'm going to be interviewing them so that I can answer so I can get the answers that they want. So it's easy, it's an easier conversation. They're like, yeah, cool. Let's ask me some questions. So even if I did have a script on it, they wouldn't even care. I'd be like, okay, cool. There's 5 questions here. I just want to remember them. One is, okay, this. They would not care because they're coming in from a different context altogether. And so and I've actually had, I think it's only one time this has ever happened, maybe twice. Okay. Maybe twice. But one time this happened to me and I'm like, wow. Okay. So somebody said, hey man, can you tell me more about Atlas? I go, cool. I just need to know a little bit more about you and your business. Is it okay if I ask questions? They're like, cool. So I ask one question and they answer the question, which is a very simple question. Like, how long you've been in business or something. Next question, I ask another question. They come back with, why are you asking me all these questions? And I said, I asked you if I could, if I could ask you some questions because I want to get to know if there's right. And it was so funny because it wasn't even like the third question in or whatever, because there's usually around 5 that I kind of get to know them.
Mhm.
Second question is like, why are you asking me all these questions? And right away, I knew it was not a fit. Like right away. So like that's what I'm talking about. So now going back to, or do you have any input on that before we get back to the?
No, yeah, no, you'll get those people, right? Right, and
It's
those are the. It's rare, but those
it's
are the
very
same
rare.
people that unfortunately, not only that they have a bad experience before, but in their
Yeah.
mind, they're coming into a war zone, and they're
Yeah.
protecting themselves,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, you do this so well by basically letting people know there's not going to be a fit because it won't be. They keep having those things, and maybe that the timing is just not right. But yeah, it's
Yeah, and then
unfortunate.
they'll
Sometimes,
say that. I mean, that in that conversation, I think it was like, "Look, just tell me how much it is." Like, so I could tell you how much
yes.
it is, but I don't even know if it's going to work for you yet. Like so. Let's why I'm asking you these questions. I don't need any questions. Just tell me how much it is. So I think in that case, I told them how much it is. Of course, they never got back, whatever it was. But it just shows you like they're not even listening. So back to
Hmm.
the if you can if you want it, you really find the money.
Hmm.
This is a tough one, man. And I don't operate in this area, but it's almost there is some truth to that, right? Where
Hmm. Hmm.
um you're not in a pressure situation is not what we're talking about here. Like so if they really wanted this, we're going to pressure them to find the money or whatever. That's not what we're talking
But
about. But there
but
has
that's but that's how it will come across, though. See, this
yeah,
is this is what I'm talking about. It's why would you want to train on that? Because
right.
people are people, and nobody likes to get sold. But by you
Right.
hearing that statement, you're not going to you may say this is not a pressure. I heard that. I'm sure you heard it too, Joey. I've heard the look, I'm not trying to sell you, but let me
Yeah.
tell you, I mean, you get this one, and if you get that, I'm like, you're still trying to sell me
Yeah,
because
you're
there's that
selling me.
pressure, right? You get the
Mhm.
money, you're in my cover. I think if we wanted to fix that, by the way, is going back to what we already spoke about. Can we get the right people in the conversations? Because if they're basically pushing away that I don't want to be sold, they're not the right people. So anyway, go on. What you were
Yeah,
gonna
no,
say?
like there's context around it because, my conversations, Atlas is like it's a $4,200 program, right? It's not chump change, and depending on where what option you want to take, because there are payment plans to it. There's anywhere from 3 to $4,200, right? Anyway, so I will rarely get somebody who will say no. And have to use a pressure thing on them. Well, let's try and find that money. No, it's never like that. So it may be
Mhm.
like, well, here's how much you have 3 options on how you want to pay. If you want to pay for it,
Mhm.
whenever you're ready for that, whenever that's kind of the option that I will give somebody. And
Yeah.
and it's true that if they are truly wanting to work, they will eventually find the money to work with me to pay for whatever it is. But there's never a pressure on them to say,
Okay,
"Hey, man,
but you
are you ready now, or what's going on?" Right?
right. What that you just said the key ingredient. Eventually.
Right.
You see, this is again, it all comes down to what we're talking
Right.
about, man. It's like, where you either do it right, and if you're capable of stepping back a little bit and really building those connections and the relationships and the potential opportunities, it's going to take some time, but you can't rush, and you can't have that mindset, one close sale, one call close. You can't do that. You if you're in it, that's fine. That means that you're not in our inner circle. You're not in this world, and that's fine. But dude, it's like, eventually, I have had those conversations too. It's like, oh, well, we have pay plans, and it's a $25,000 program, and that's the paid in full. You're gonna save like 10,000, sure. And they're like, no, what? I can't do it. No problem. Take it easy. Like, this is not chump change, right? This is a big decision, and it's your business. So when you're ready, let me know. If you've got questions in between, let's talk about it.
Yeah, because
I'm,
there's
you know,
also, yeah, I mean, even on the other side of it, Eddie, there's conversation, and this goes back to, I think, and this is, we don't even have the time to go into this because this could open up a whole nother rabbit hole, but it's where you get on a call with somebody and they say, I can't afford that, or I'm not ready for that, or it's too expensive, or whatever it is, and let's say it's $5,000, $10,000, it doesn't matter the price, and then all of a sudden you see them buy something else for the exactly same price or more, and you're like, what the hell happened there? That has everything to do with what you're selling. Is it to the right people? Is it the right thing for them? Something is not aligned. And that's the problem.
mhm.
It's not the fact that you're a crappy salesperson. It's more about the thing that you have, you're not articulating it, or you're not articulating it to the right people. And that's
Dude.
right.
And and
You want to talk
and
about that one?
and and let me just say, we're gonna have to close it on this, because I can go on that one, but I will tell you this on that. Okay, I have seen that, and it's unfortunate that even though you would think that just a regular, sales development rep, executive, whatever you want to call them, the person who's making the sale up front, it's actually leadership too, man.
Hmm.
It's almost like when they hear that you didn't close that sale, they go and point at you because you could have done it right there and then. So it's like you're getting it from different people, you know, but it's just not aligned. So whether you clarify exactly what you were saying, selling, or whether that person was out of line, and then they go and buy something else, dude, it's like the pressure comes from, oh, I'm crappy, I failed. And then the sales leader, you see, that's why you need, I have had that conversation. That's why you got to get a deposit. You have to get $100. You have to wait for them to go pick up their credit card right there and then. You can't let them go because they're gonna go buy that thing somewhere else. Stop that, because
Mm-hmm.
you're selling to the wrong person. If that's happening, you're selling. And then the worst thing is that that's almost like you're forcing the sale, and you're dragging them in, and you're gonna have to drag them through your entire relationship that's gonna suck and stink, and one day you're gonna look back and say, yeah, this is my baby, this is making me my millions, but it's an ugly baby. I wish I can just get rid of this baby. Quit it. Okay, that's it.
No, man. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, thank you for that because yeah, if I look at failures, if you want to call it that, as opportunities to grow, to learn what was, what can be better about this situation. And in my case, at the beginning of it, it was, who am I speaking to? Like, I'm not speaking to the right people, So if I found people were getting on my calls and joining another course or something else, it was, instead of me beating myself up, it was like, maybe they don't like me, or maybe my course sucks, or whatever. It's like, where can I improve on this? Like, what's happening? And looking outside, and that's a hard thing to do, brother. Like, I don't know about you or anybody else listening to this, but it's hard. It's hard when especially when somebody goes to something else, like exactly just does a lateral and say,
Mm,
I'm just going to
yeah,
pick Eddie. I'm
yeah.
going to use his coaching program instead. I'll give him 5 grand
Mhm,
when I told you that he didn't
mhm,
have 5 grand. And I'm like, what?
mhm.
Right? It's like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? And
Yeah,
that's a
I
hard
think
thing to navigate
that
through.
is a hard thing. It is. I mean, actually, I wouldn't know how I would react now. I've kind of grown a little bit, but back in the day, Joey, right? Remember, I had to wear that T-shirt. Please like me,
Right.
so I don't know. That would have probably broke me and affect me big time. But it is what it is. I think in the end, after the day end, you have to know that you did good and you did what you could,
100%.
and be 100% you. Like, it's really hard. I've been in those situations where they want you to be somebody else and then you're not, and so you're conflicted, right? At the end of the day, you're conflicted, like, oh my goodness, was it that, was it me, was it them? You just have to come to those terms. It's like there's not a lot of things that are new with sales. There's not a lot of things that are new with enrolling individuals into a program. It really, right now, it all comes down to listening and just having those conversations, right? And just having the being okay with whatever the end result. And you said it too, Joey. You said it before just now, that yes, ultimately the ultimate outcome, you want it to, you're selling
Yeah,
something
you do want to
ultimately,
make a sale because you know
right?
that you can help. If you genuinely can help the person, you
Yeah,
want the sale. There's no doubt in my
you
mind.
want
Somebody
it.
said to me,
No,
dude,
right?
if I gave you 100 people, do you want to sell them? Do you want to make a sale? Of course I do. Would I
Yeah,
pressure them all? No. It'd be like,
no,
but of course I know I can change those 100 people if they're my peeps. I know I can change the world for them. I'd
right?
be lying if I said, no, I don't want to sell them on anything or give them
Exactly,
Atlas. No, but it's
exactly.
how you get to those 100 people. And at the
Yes.
end, yeah, in
And
between it
and
all.
and you know what? In between it, right? You said it too. You don't want to spend 2-3 hours just having a conversation, because there is, bills to pay and all that stuff, right? I mean, it is what it is. But I think, again, there is a time for everything.
Right, right.
There's a season for everything, and we just have to come to that fact. There is a season and a time for everybody. Me, you, and you who are listening or watching. There's a season in your life, and if it's not the right season, or if it's not the right time, we cannot force it. It's just what it is, right?
You
You
know,
just have to do that.
before you go, I wanted to just share this analogy, and you've heard me say this before in Atlas about the parade, or when right. So I
Yeah,
just want to
yeah, go
share this
ahead.
analogy
Yes. Hmm.
because it's super important, and I credit Eben Pagan. He's the one that said it. I was in his coaching program a while back, and when he said it, I never forgot this, and I'm going to add another component to this because of our conversation. So imagine that your audience, your prospects are a marching parade. They're in a parade and they're going down the street, and you are on the sidewalk and you're talking to them. You're having conversations and they're in the parade. And if you just were stationary and you fired one closed sale things at them and they don't respond, eventually that parade is gone. And but you're hoping that new people are coming in, new leads, right? So you're sitting there firing all of these one things that's not working. Now, if you change the paradigm and you walk with them, because you said this, but and so you're walking with the parade, their mindsets, their attitudes, everything is changing. The environment is changing. They see things differently, and you're there all the time, walking beside them. And they're asking a question and you're answering maybe, but you're having a conversation. You're walking along with them. When they are ready, the bright people turn around and go, wow, Eddie is still there. Hey, man, like, can you tell me about your program? And that's how it all kind of works. That's the way I see it. So the new thing I want to add to this is imagine now the same scenario that you're walking along them And there's other people that are with the flyers or whatever, and they're just stationary and they're handing out, here's my program. And they're like, they're walking along, they grab it and they just drop it down. And all along like, when you go to Vegas and you got all this,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you get all those
like that,
people.
you're like, holy crap, dude. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what those salespeople are all, that's what they are. And, but you're
Mhm.
navigating, you're walking around them and okay, take the flyer if you want to, but you're always
Mhm.
there. And so
Mhm.
that is
Yeah.
super important. I always have that in my brain about all the conversations. And I imagine that that person is just in the parade and we're walking together and they can see
Yeah.
me supporting them, even
Mhm.
though there may not be a conversation. They say, Joey is still
Mhm.
there. In
Yeah.
terms of what we're talking about here, it could be in our content. Okay.
Mhm.
Right. It could be in
Mhm.
conversations like this. It's like, hey, he does a live
Mhm.
every single Tuesday night. He's always there. Right. And that is
Mhm.
me supporting them, walking along the sidelines while they are
Mhm.
going through their parade and figuring out the environment of when they need my help or not.
That's right. And again, right? They're going to choose one person, two person at the right time in the right season and at the turn of that parade. It could be that now they're not distracted with all of the stuff that's happening, and they just happen to notice you and they really like you. And I mean, there's so many factors in there. But I like that analogy. Yeah, that's why I wanted you to tell it because it it reminds me. Remember Elf, the movie Elf?
Yeah.
Okay, that's exactly what I always think of, especially with the flyer things, right? Like they're out there trying to sell. That's what that is. Like the two guys are like just giving out the papers to everybody that walks through, and then Elf comes around and he loves it,
Yeah.
and
He's
then
like,
he's like
he's
taking one,
grabbing.
taking the other, and taking the right? so so it's again, you're gonna get so many different types of people. You might, whatever it is that you're doing, the consistency needs to stay there, and you need to be true to who you are. And in the end, I mean, someone besides Elf, right? Someone's going to show up and say, "Man, this is good." So I'm glad that I
It's
found you because
even,
this is the time.
dude, it's even, I don't know if you were with, there was one other area where I was explaining this analogy. And then I came up with another piece of it where you moved from, because I think it was somebody asking about like how many times are you answering the same question or conversations are going on again and again and again, right? And it prompted me to bring the context of the parade in a different way to say like, okay, imagine the parade again. You're still walking, like let's say you go to Disneyland or something and you got people are walking in and you're the tour guide now. You're leading the parade and they're asking you questions about stuff and or not even Disney, whatever. You're pointing out landmarks and you're explaining things about how long that building's been there or whatever. That's the questions, those are the conversations, right? And the parade goes around the same route day in, day out, hour after hour after hour. And some of those people are there constantly. However, by the second time they pass the same building, they see the building in a completely different light. They either see
Mhm.
it in a different light or they ask a different question about it. So you're answering the thing about the building in this example as the guide, because that's what we're doing. You're
Mhm.
really guiding our tribe, and you're answering the question, and they're learning more about the building. And the building in this
Yeah.
case could be the sale or the product, right? They're learning more
Mhm.
about that, but they're
Mhm.
asking a question, and they're passing by the building one time, and it's gone now, and they forget about it, and you're like, well, that didn't work. But let's say that they're with you for 5 hours that whole day. Now they're going to see and
Mhm.
ask questions about that building five different ways, five different times, and maybe by the
Mhm.
end of it, they want to buy the building. Right?
Yeah.
It's just another
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
way of looking at it
It's
because
it's
you're
it's
guiding them.
Yeah, but it's people, right? It's
Yeah,
people. We're in the people business,
one
and
hundred
that's
percent.
why, yeah, that's why mastering the art of communication. That's why my favorite book, right? Winning Friends and Influence Others. That's my favorite, and anything that like influenced. I can't remember right now his name, but all of those books that
Dale
basically
Carnegie.
teach Dale Carnegie, right? All of those books that basically teach me how to be better me in communicating what I believe and what I know that it works because I've done it so many times. But how can I communicate that in a way that I'm meeting them where they're at? That's most important for me
Go
to
back to the
train
basics.
on, right?
Yeah,
Then instead of doing the, you need to ask the questions, you need to have a script, you can't say this, you can't say that, you need to ask this, like all this. Oh, just let me be me. Let be you, and just do better you. What, isn't there a book to be a better you or something like that? I can't quite remember right now, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, you just need to be who you are.
Yeah, 100%,
and
man.
and that's what it's all about, because when I go to bed, man, and I wake up the next morning, a lot of times in the morning, my time, my prayer time, my journaling time, a lot of times, dude, I still think on that conversation, that I always think, man, that was good, or think, how could I have done better?
Yeah,
Because I want to get better.
yeah,
And that's what it's all about, man. That's where you are a people driven, you're a heart centered individual. And maybe the taste of the sales tactics are not right with you, they don't fit right with you, then you might be that type of person. And so you develop who you are first, and man, it'll show, and your world will completely change, and the world of the other person will change too, transform, because you'll gain that buyer's confidence, you gain that trust, people, they start referring you to people. I mean, it's just a wonderful experience all around. Again, it just takes not only the right person knowing who you are, but also understanding that there's a human being on the other side. So
100%.
we got to learn to do that.
Thank you for being who you are, Eddie, man. I'm so glad that you're like making a big splash in that world to bring this to the table, because I know that's who you are authentically. I know you, you're like a brother, and I've gotten to know you over the years. So thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being a catalyst for this in that scope of the industry.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to just end off with before we say goodnight?
No, man, like going back to you, I appreciate actually that you had Joshua today there, and many other individuals that you've had in the academy world. And it's really cool, man. You have continually inspired me to move on, move ahead, and be who I am without being afraid of what other people think. So you're the catalyst in my world, dude. So keep it going.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. We will be back again next week, next Tuesday, for another heart centered marketing show. Eddie, great to see you again, my friend. See you soon.
Love it, man. See you later.
Cheers.